We are going to talk about a doozy of a topic because climate change is rearing its ugly head in massively significant ways recently. There's no way of getting around it. It's here, and millions of people are being affected by it right now. Right as I'm streaming this, it's happening now. And this is not something that we should take lightly. This is not something that we can reasonably ignore anymore, because whole parts of the world are having huge issues right now. And it's not because of sea level rise. It's not because of any of the hot button topics with climate change that people talk about and people argue about. These are just simply unprecedented droughts and floods, and it is upending life all over the world at this point. It's not just happening in the American Southwest, although that is the one that hits closest to home. But it is happening everywhere, and we are going to very carefully go through what is happening all around the world, and then try to explain why these things will become more common in a way that I have yet to see somebody explain properly. I picked up this explanation by complete happenstance from a completely separate video that wasn't even about climate change. But it finally snapped all the pieces together in my brain. It was like, oh crap, this is why these things are happening. This is why they're going to be more common. And I just felt like, given the unprecedented heat wave and drought that's happening in China, and the massive flooding that's happening in Pakistan, and the American Southwest still being in its mega drought, that I should just talk about it. I have a limited audience, but the few of you that may tune in or watch this video later should come away from this video with a much more salient argument for why climate change is an issue, why it is something that we should be trying to tackle as quickly as possible. So, getting into it, let's talk about what climate change is specifically. Climate change is the average weather and temperature that the world experiences in any given year, and those averages change over time. They have changed over time ever since the Earth was formed. When the Earth first came into being, it was a hot, molten rock where nothing could live on it. And slowly it cooled down, and the climate wasn't really a word that applied to a molten hellhole back at that time, but eventually it cooled down enough for life to take form. And then, ever since then, the climate on planet Earth has shifted. It has shifted slowly over time, and sometimes drastically, in a very short amount of time, and it has absolutely dictated the course of life on this planet. So we like to think that we have control over our dominion, that human beings and other animals control what happens in their environment. But I got news for you. Planet Earth is in charge. Like, we could wipe out all life on Earth. And we could. We have the power with the nuclear bombs at our disposal. We could wipe out all life on the surface of the Earth, and the Earth would just keep right on going like it didn't even fucking happen. We are not important to the realm of planets. We live on a planet. We can doom ourselves. But Earth is going to outlive us. And there is nothing we can do about it. We do not have the energy to take Earth with us. Earth can get rid of us, but we cannot get rid of it. We are too small. Having said that, we can absolutely ruin ourselves. And the way that we can ruin ourselves is by not taking into account the power that climate has over what happens on the surface of the earth where we live. We don't live anywhere else but the surface of the earth. And the climate rules where we live, what we do, where we do it, and how many people, how many resources, what we can build, what we can extract. I mean, everything we do is based around what does the climate look like in a given area. And it's changing rapidly, and we are not prepared for it. We're talking about the ice caps melting, and if the ice caps melt, they're going to make sea levels rise. Now, can we mitigate that in the future by building seawalls or coming up with better ways to deal with large waves during storms at coastal cities? Sure, that's not out of the realm of impossibility. If we built the entire city, we certainly could build a wall around the city. The wall is small potatoes compared to building the rest of the city. But why would we want to do that when we can take care of the problem at the source? We may still have to build some stuff, but we can definitely make it less destructive. And we should. And that climate change, that problem of climate change is going to rear its ugly head in ways other than what you would think of, which is, temperatures will be hotter. The ice caps will melt. Sea levels will rise. We will have stronger hurricanes over time. We may end up having more and stronger tornadoes over time. Like, all those things are true. But what's clear now, given what's been happening the last few years, is that those are not really the big issues. Those are all short burst, small things that happen that are awful, and we definitely should be trying to prevent them, but they are not going to be the civilization collapsing problems. People have been dealing with natural disasters ever since humans started walking on this earth. Earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, wildfires, famines. This stuff has happened ever since humans first set foot on this planet. But we are by far and away more attached to the locations that we live now than we ever have been in the past. Cities were not nearly the size that they are now. I mean, most of the cities on Earth at the moment, of any notable size, are larger than the population of the entire planet was for most of human history. It's only in the last few thousand years that human beings have really managed to take over the entire world and truly become like a dominant species in the area. Homo sapiens, humans have been on Earth for 300,000 years, and we only have records of us really doing this civilization game for the last, 6 or 7? Maybe 8, maybe 10,000 years ago? But certainly no massive civilizations popped up before 6 or 7,000 years ago. So the vast majority of our existence, we know, never had cities of any notable size. It was just villages. And as a result, when a natural disaster happened, it really wasn't that hard just to pick up and move the people that were left. How are you going to do that with Miami? How are you going to do it with Sydney, Australia? Where are those people going to go? You're going to build them a whole nother city somewhere else before they get there? That's not how cities work. Cities grow organically. People show up slowly over time. Stuff gets built to accommodate them. You can't build a city ahead of time in preparation for millions of people. It doesn't work. In fact, we have an example of this here. Bring up the capital city of Myanmar. This capital city right here. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. But the government built this city in preparation for people coming there. It was supposed to be the new capital of Myanmar. They spent billions of dollars building this city. Apartments, roads, highways, capital cities, temples, everything. And this is what it looks like on a regular basis. Just empty. Just positively empty. There's nobody there. Look at this highway. The few people that are there regularly just hang out in the road because there's not enough cars to even worry about. And it's because this city was built in preparation for people showing up. But there wasn't actually any guarantee that anybody was going to show up, and so nobody did. So it's just this massive capital city that's got nobody in it. That's what's going to happen if you have to relocate Miami. Like everybody in Miami leaving all at once to go to the rest of the country. Like, you can't do that in a short amount of time. It has to happen slowly. So, this brings us to the reason why I wanted to do this video today, which is that several countries on Earth are dealing with massive effects of climate change right now. China is dealing with the single worst heat wave and the single worst drought in recorded history at the moment. Recorded history. Not recent history. All of recorded history. Human beings have never, as far as we know, experienced a drought as long and as hot as what has been happening in China this year. They've had 116 straight days of record heat. Every day is a record for 116 straight days. And the effect of this, you can see it here, maximum temperatures. Look at this, all of this. Just all of it is in a heat wave. Damn near the entire country. And like 70% of everybody in China lives below these two cities. From here to the Pacific. There's very few people over here. I want to get to the river because this is what's truly mind-boggling. Apparently we're not going to get it on this page. Let's go back. Okay. This river right here. This river is the third longest river in the world. It is navigable very far into the interior of China. Many, many cities depend on this river to get goods in and out of these cities. They also depend on these rivers to provide hydroelectric power because there's dams all along the river. This river is comparable to the Mississippi in the United States. And look at it. It is dry. This happened in a year. It's insane. Imagine how scary it would be if the Mississippi River dried up. That's what happened in China just this year. The worst drought in recorded history happened in China this year. It's still happening right now. It's so bad. Stupid ads. It's so bad that several factories in the area have had to completely shut down because the electric grid cannot supply them enough power. Some cities are turning off the electricity to customers for 10 hours a day, and most days it is over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Imagine living in a high-rise apartment with no AC in 100-degree weather. That's what's happening here. And to make matters worse, because the hydroelectric dams the water level is too low to run them, to make up the gap in electricity, they've had to burn more coal. And they still can't keep up. And then, not to mention all the goods and services that can't get out of the country. Like, we've already been having supply chain issues. Now the Mississippi River in China is unnavigable. You can't get down it. Only certain parts are even navigable anymore. Like, this is serious. Like, on the world stage, this is one of the worst possible things that could have happened. The only thing worse is the Evergrande getting stuck in the Suez Canal, or whatever the hell that ship's name was. Like, this is serious stuff. Now, let's move on to the United States. Southwest U.S. mega drought. The United States is having a mega drought right now. You can see this picture right here. This picture. That line, that white line across there, that's where the water level in that reservoir used to be. The water has bleached the rock to be slightly white. It's down like, I mean, the Hoover Dam, Lake Mead behind the Hoover Dam right now is at 25% capacity in the Southwest. Look at this. This all used to be underwater. It's just empty. This one here. Look at how far down that is. I was just out west last year. They have a floating boat dock in Lake Powell in Utah. And you're supposed to drive your car up and then just walk straight out onto the water. Instead, when I got there, the floating boat dock was 50 feet below the road. I had to walk 50 feet downhill to get to this floating boat dock. I didn't even know it was low at that time. Somehow, the mega drought had completely missed me until this year. At least the severity of it. I knew there was a drought happening out west. I didn't realize how bad the Colorado had gotten. But all this is currently in a drought, and it's been in a drought for like 10 years. It's not good. Like, what happens if all the people that live here have to move? Where are they going to go? Everybody in Phoenix, everybody in Las Vegas, everybody in California that depends on the Colorado River to come down. What happens to all the food that we grow here with the Colorado River water? Do all those farmers pick up and move to the eastern part of the country where there isn't a drought? If they do move to the eastern part of the country, are they going to be able to grow the stuff that they grow there? Because the conditions are very different over here. I mean, this is reconfiguring everything that we do. I don't even know what that map is, what that graph is. So, now let's move on to Pakistan, which is by far the worst of the things that I've seen. Oh, sorry, real quickly, before we get to Pakistan. Yellowstone, sorry, not Yosemite. My bad. Yellowstone. Look at the floods that happened in Yellowstone. Just torrential rain. Just took out whole bits of the canyon road. I mean, the road is gone. They're not even sure if they're going to be able to fix it. That's how damaged parts of Yellowstone National Park are. Here's a better picture of it. Look at that. Just ate the road. Whole buildings just swept downriver in Yellowstone because it just rained like crazy. And it all ended up in Yellowstone. Look at the size of that waterfall. Just absolutely insane. Building falling in the river. See if we can get a video of it. Here's a video of the floods. Look at that. Just complete destruction. It's just awful. The whole road is gone. See if we can get her. Just look, just flooded completely. Burst its banks. Can't even see where the river's supposed to go. Look at that, after the floodwaters subsided, it ate that whole hillside. Took the whole thing with it. Now that right there, that is a truly catastrophic flood that happened in Yellowstone. That park is not going to be the same. It'll never be the same. And they're not even sure they're going to be able to build it up to a semblance of what it was before. It's probably going to be permanently scarred. You may never even be able to go in the canyon anymore on that road, that stretch of road that got damaged. They're not even sure they're going to fix it. It's just in case this happens again. Because it's becoming more likely that stuff like this will happen. So, now let's move on to the bad story. These are all bad, but this one's real bad. Pakistan has been flooded. And I mean flooded. Like essentially the entire country was flooded. 33 million people have had some kind of damage done to where they live because of these floods. 33 million people. More people than the entire population of New York City. The entire country flooded. 1,100 people have been confirmed dead. 1,100 people. And it's expected to rise, it says. More than 1 million homes, 2 million acres of crops, 3,000 miles of road, and 500,000 people, 500,000 people, have been displaced and are in camps with untold thousands of people just with no shelter at all. Because what are you going to do when that many people are affected by this? says here that Sherry Raymond, Pakistan's Minister for Climate Change, told Morning Edition on Thursday that an area bigger than the state of Colorado is currently submerged. The entire state of Colorado is underwater in Pakistan. And this is a country that's known to get monsoons. They get them all the time. They're prepared for it. They have flood pumps to pump water out of cities. Didn't help. Not even a little bit. The military has been deployed to try to help, but there's only so much they can do. Certain towns are completely inaccessible by normal means. The only way to get supplies in and out is to drop them from a helicopter. Not land the helicopter, throw them out of it, because there's no place to land a helicopter. It's the worst humanitarian disaster. Not man-made. Or not directly caused by war, I should say. The worst humanitarian disaster probably since the tsunami that caused Fukushima and just leveled the Philippines. It's just terrible. No electricity. We're going to look up a Google map or Google Earth of Pakistan. Well, this is unhelpful. Oh, I don't know how to drive the bus, apparently. Okay, so this is Pakistan, right here. You can see there's a river right here, this big green strip. All that green land is a river. That river feeds all of this strip of lush green civilization right here, where people can grow their crops. We're going to see what it looks like now after the flood. That is what it looks like now. From space. The flood is so big, you can see it from space. And you can see the Great Wall of China from space big. I mean, you can actually see it from space. It's like, look at that. It's just insane. All those people just immediately displaced. Probably 1 million people. 1 million people or more, just homes gone. Just instantly. Like most of the cities in the United States have less than 1 million people in them. Imagine if you just took one of them and just went, nope, everybody in that city, fuck off. Can't live here no more. That's what happened. It's just awful. So, now that we got the current news of the tragic things that are happening, let's talk about why. Why does climate change, specifically rising temperatures on average, result in catastrophic droughts, catastrophic floods? So, it has to do with this was what I learned, and it set everything in my brain properly. It has to do with the amount of energy in the air. So everybody knows that the more energy there is in a given space, the hotter it is. It's the same thing. It's just like when you heat stuff up on your stove. It takes the energy of from burning the fossil fuels coming out of your stove or heating up the element or however your stove is powered. It takes the energy coming in and uses it to raise the temperature of whatever is above the stove. So the energy coming in goes into the substance on the stove and raises its temperature. So that energy has become incorporated into whatever is on your stove. And you can figure out what the heat capacity of a given substance is. It's called the specific heat capacity of a substance. So in the case of air, it is 700 joules per kilogram or per Kelvin. Kelvin is the zero is different, but the scale is the same as Celsius. So we'll call it 700 joules per Celsius at a density of 1.2 kilograms per meter cubed. So basically, 1 cubic meter of air is 3 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot. If you raise the temperature of that air by 1 degree Celsius, there's 700 joules extra of energy. Joules is the physics unit of energy. It's applicable everywhere because it just means energy. You don't have to transfer it between stuff. So 700 joules per cubic meter of air. So the next thing you need to know to figure out how much extra energy is in the air, because that's what we're working on right now, is how much extra energy is in the air as the temperature goes up, is you need to know the dew point. The dew point is how much water has to be in the air for it to condense into clouds or to condense as water droplets on a window, and that's called a saturation curve, and it changes based off the temperature. It goes up by about 7% per degree Celsius. So for every degree Celsius you go up, you can hold about 7% more water in that air. So I just picked 90 degrees because 90 degrees is a hot day. So 90 degrees is about 32 degrees Celsius. You can see that the water vapor is in the air is about 30 grams per kilogram of dry air. So if it's 90 degrees outside, each kilogram of air can hold about 30 grams of water. And if you raise it by 1 degree Celsius, so 32 to 33, which gives probably 94, maybe. I'm not exactly sure what the conversion rate is, but we'll say 90 to 94, somewhere in there. Degrees Fahrenheit, it goes from 30 grams to about 32 grams per kilogram of dry air. So, a 1 degree rise in average in temperature, 1 degree Celsius results in, at 90 degrees Fahrenheit, results in a 2 extra grams of water being in that air to reach its dew point. And you have to have the water reach the dew point in order for it to collapse into clouds and rain. So, now, if the water is in the air, that means that it has been raised to the temperature of the air. So what is the energy capacity of water? Well, the energy capacity of water is 4,182 joules per kilogram. Whereas you saw back here, air is 700 joules per 1.2 kilograms. So water holds a lot more energy per kilogram than air does. But we're not dealing in kilograms, we're dealing in grams. So, first math problem. The energy capacity of water is 4,182 joules per kilogram Celsius. But we're in grams, so we're adding 2 grams. So 4,182 times 0.002 converts that to grams. And then 1.2 gives us the conversion to the amount in kilograms per meter squared of air. So that gives us 10.0368. So for every degree that the temperature goes up, you can add 10 extra joules of energy of water per cubic meter. So, to figure out how much extra energy is in the air, you need to know what is the cubic meter volume of Earth's atmosphere. And the answer to that is 51 trillion cubic meters. 51 trillion. So, if you do 51 trillion, so we're going to take the energy capacity of air, take one step back. Energy capacity of air, which is 700. 700 plus 10.063. That's the energy of the air plus the energy of the water. And multiply that by 51 trillion. Thousand, million, billion, trillion. What does that give you? Gives you 5. Oh, sorry. Screwed up the equation here. Do that again. Yeah. Okay. So that gives you sorry, I'm doing something wrong here. I did this math earlier to check it. Did it earlier to check it, and I'm getting different. Oh. Duh. Sorry. I'm doing it wrong here. It's not 700 joules for air per cubic meter. It's 246,120 joules. Sorry. That's per kilogram. Yeah, Sorry, screwing myself up here. I apologize. 246,000. Oh, I see. I see. Okay, I'm doing this wrong. Or I did my initial math wrong. I did my second math right. Okay, so this is correct. It's 3.621 times 10 to the 16th, raised to the 16th power. That's how much extra energy is in the atmosphere if you raise the temperature by 1 degree Celsius. This is a gigantic number. It is monstrously huge. To put it into perspective, the Hiroshima bomb was 1.5 times 10 to the 13. And if we come into our math problem, which I have to fix because I screwed it up before, 3.621 to the 16. Let's fix this so that way our math is correct. Oh. I am so sorry, guys. My computer is doing something. As soon as I started typing numbers. Well, this part's been a bust. It's all right. We'll keep going anyway. So, Okay. Don't really know how to fix that particular issue. We'll deal with it another time. Very sorry about this. Anyway, so got to fix my math here. 3.621. 3.621. Right here. 3.621 times 10 to the 16 divided by 1.5 times 10 to the 15. Okay, so this is the total energy extra in the atmosphere divided by the Hiroshima bomb's energy. So we'll hit enter. And we get 24. 24 times the amount of energy. Just to put into perspective, for every degree Celsius, the average temperature of the air on Earth goes up. You get 24 Hiroshima bombs worth of extra energy in the atmosphere. That is how all of this stuff happens. That right there. All these droughts, all the hurricanes, all of the floods happen because there's that much energy just floating around in the atmosphere if it goes up by 1 degree Celsius. But it's not uniformly distributed all around the world. You have spots on the Earth at any given time that are slightly colder than average, and other spots that are much warmer than average. So it's not 24 Hiroshima bombs evenly spread out around the globe. It's 24 Hiroshima bombs concentrated in spots around the atmosphere, which is how you can end up with absolutely massive hurricanes or massive rainstorms or massive droughts, because all the heat capacity of the air, the dew point of the air has gone up, so more air can sit in the atmosphere before it starts to rain. If you already have low amounts of rainfall, like out west, then if you already have low amounts of rainfall like out west, then it takes more of the water evaporating out of your rivers or out of your reservoirs, out of your lakes to condense into rain. But there's wind currents, so what if you don't have the time? What if you need that rain to fall now? And if it doesn't fall now, all that moisture is going to get blown with the front over to a different part of the United States, which is basically what's happening right now for a drought. All of the water that's evaporating out of these reservoirs, that's evaporating out of the ground, that flows downhill from the Rocky Mountains to fill the Colorado, it just doesn't go back into the river. It falls other places. It doesn't go as snowpack. That's the big problem with the Colorado, is the main source of the Colorado River is all the snow melting from the Rockies up in Colorado. But the Rockies haven't been getting snowfall because the temperature's gone up. Hurricanes are getting, on average, more powerful. We're not getting more hurricanes. We're getting more powerful hurricanes because there's 24 Hiroshima bombs worth of energy just floating around in the atmosphere. Of course that's going to make a hurricane worse. If the atmosphere can hold on to more water, then when it rains, it's going to rain more than it probably would have otherwise. It doesn't make it a terrible storm, but you're probably going to get a little more rain in every storm than you would on average when you have a storm. And then occasionally, Pakistan happens. And it becomes more common. And so you end up where some places don't have enough water. Mexico is having a water shortage. The Southwest United States is having a water shortage. China is currently having a water shortage. Many of the rivers in Europe are having a water shortage right now. Everybody's having water shortages all at the same time. And then there's other parts that just end up getting just wrecked with rain. Pakistan, the eastern United States has seen an uptick in rain, not catastrophic amounts of rain all at once, but slightly more rain than on average. And this is just going to keep happening. Places where it rains a lot, it's going to rain more. Places where it doesn't rain that often, it's going to rain less. Places that get snowpack are going to get less snowpack. Bad storms are going to be real bad more often. And I hope that we can rise to the occasion. I hope that we can figure this out. Because this number right here, 24 Hiroshima bombs worth of energy in the atmosphere. That's the ball game. That's why all this stuff happens. That's why scientists say we need to keep the average rise in temperatures below 2 degrees Celsius. Because if this is what 24 Hiroshima bombs does, what are we going to do with 48? What are we going to do with 75? Because that's where we're headed. 75 nuclear bombs worth of energy, potentially, in the atmosphere at any given time. And them hurricanes are going to be rough. Take that number with you. Talk to people about it. It's important. That's what we're doing. That's what climate change is causing. It's causing nuclear bombs worth of energy into the atmosphere. And then 1,100 people die. 1,100 plus people die in a giant flood. And what are we supposed to do about it? How do you save lives when monsoons like that happen? They become more common. Pakistan has a huge population. Where are those people going to go? Food for thought. It was weighing on my mind today. I'm sorry about the bit that happened in the middle where I forgot how to run my own equipment. But I hope I got my point across. Feeling like the next stream I do, I should cover something sciencey. I don't know what yet. I'll think about it. All right, well, have a good night. I'll see you on Monday.